When God marks a woman for kingdom marriage, He does not simply give her the desire for companionship. He gives her the mantle of destiny. She is not just another bride to be. She is a builder, a nurturer, and a partner in divine purpose. Kingdom marriage is not about two people finding each other randomly. It is about God orchestrating lives for the fulfillment of His eternal plan. A woman who is chosen for this kind of union begins to carry signs that distinguish her from the rest. These are not always loud or obvious, but they are undeniable when you look deeper. The first sign is her commitment to God before man. A woman marked for kingdom marriage is first a bride of Christ before she is ever a bride of her husband. Her love, loyalty, and submission flow first to God, and because she knows how to submit to Him, she is able to walk in honor with the man God places in her life. This kind of woman is not moved by flattery, nor is she carried away by shallow promises. She has built her trust on a higher foundation, and that foundation prepares her to stand as a pillar in her future home. The second sign is her clarity of purpose. She is not waiting for a man to give her identity. She is already walking in her God-given calling. Whether in her work, her ministry, or her influence, she is already productive and fruitful. When God marked Eve for Adam, He created her as a helper suitable for him. That means she already carried within her the ability to multiply what was entrusted to her. In the same way, a woman marked for kingdom marriage does not sit idle waiting for direction. She carries vision, she nurtures growth, and she brings order wherever she goes. The third sign is her spirit of discernment. A woman destined for kingdom marriage can sense the difference between distraction and destiny. She does not entertain every voice that calls her name. She knows how to separate what is temporary from what is eternal. Her spirit is sensitive, and she can discern the counterfeit from the genuine. This is not because she is suspicious, but because God has trained her heart to recognize His voice above all others. That discernment protects her, and it also protects the man who will walk with her. The fourth sign is her strength wrapped in humility. She is strong, but she is not loud. She is wise, but she is not boastful. She carries the grace of submission without losing the dignity of leadership. She is not intimidated by the greatness of her husband, nor is she afraid to shine in her own calling. Her humility makes her approachable, but her strength makes her unshakable. She has learned that true beauty is not only in outward adornment, but in a quiet spirit anchored in God. The fifth sign is her ability to nurture vision. A woman marked for kingdom marriage does not simply admire a man's dream. She knows how to nurture it, encourage it, and multiply it. She sees what others may not see, and she speaks life into it until it comes alive. She does not tear down with her words. She builds up with her faith. She is the kind of woman who makes a man believe that what God has placed in him is truly possible. Her presence does not compete, it completes. The sixth sign is her endurance in seasons of waiting. She does not grow bitter because her time has not yet come. She does not compare her journey to others. She waits with dignity, trusting that God is aligning her destiny at the right moment. Her patience is not passive, it is active, filled with preparation, prayer, and growth. Because of this, when her time arrives, she is ready, not desperate. The seventh and final sign is her reflection of Christ's love. Her kindness, her forgiveness, her compassion, and her ability to love even when wronged make her stand out. She carries the fragrance of Christ everywhere she goes, and it is that fragrance that makes her the right fit for kingdom marriage. For a kingdom marriage is not built on beauty alone, nor on wealth or status. It is built on love that mirrors the very heart of God. When you see these signs in a woman, understand that she has been set apart for something higher. She is not just a wife in the making. She is a partner in destiny. She is a daughter of purpose, a helper of vision, and a carrier of divine favor. Kingdom marriage is not ordinary, and a woman marked for it is anything but ordinary. She is chosen, she is prepared, and she is sent by God to align with a man for the advancement of His kingdom on earth. When we talk about the first sign of a woman marked for kingdom marriage, we must understand that her commitment to God is her true foundation. Before she ever dreams of walking down an aisle or being called a wife, she has already learned the discipline of being the bride of Christ. Her loyalty is not first to a man, her security is not anchored in the promise of a human being, and her joy is not rooted in a relationship. Instead, she has chosen to ground her entire identity in the one who created her. This is what sets her apart, because while others may be defined by the shifting seasons of relationships and the expectations of people, she is rooted in the eternal love of God. It is this commitment that molds her into someone who is not desperate for love, but prepared to give love. Such a woman has walked through seasons of solitude where she has allowed God to be her everything. In the silence of her waiting, she has discovered the sweetness of His presence. She knows how to worship when no one is watching, how to pray when no one is listening, and how to lean on Him when no one else is there to hold her hand. This depth of intimacy with God makes her stable, because she is not tossed to and fro by emotions or pressures. She is not searching for completion in another person, for she already understands that she is whole in Christ. Because of this, she does not enter into a relationship with the emptiness of needing to be filled, but with the abundance of one who is ready to give. Her faithfulness to God creates in her a strength that is not common. She can stand when storms come, because her foundation is not a man's promise but God's covenant. She can walk through disappointments without losing her joy, because she does not depend on human affirmation to validate her worth. Her security is unshakable, and that is why when the right man appears, she is not a burden to him but a blessing. A woman like this can honor a husband because she has first honored God. She can submit with grace because she has first submitted to the one who rules her life. Submission to God teaches her how to walk with wisdom, how to carry peace, and how to respect authority, which becomes the very character that supports a kingdom marriage. The world often celebrates outward beauty, charm, or talents, but a woman marked for kingdom marriage knows that her true glory comes from her hidden life with God. This is why she radiates something more powerful than appearance. It is presence. When she enters a room, there is a fragrance of peace and dignity that cannot be explained. It is not her clothing or her style that makes her shine. It is the reflection of her commitment to God. People may admire her grace, but what they are truly sensing is the glory of God resting upon her life. This is what attracts the right kind of man, because kingdom men are not searching for superficial appeal. They are searching for depth, stability, and virtue that flows from God. Her relationship with God also makes her discerning in love. She does not fall for every smooth word or flattering compliment. She measures words against the truth of Scripture, and she tests actions by the character of Christ. Her loyalty to God becomes her compass, ensuring she does not mistake counterfeit affection for divine alignment. She would rather wait for God's timing than rush into something that looks good but is not ordained. Her commitment to God protects her heart from compromise and preserves her destiny for the one man who has been chosen to walk with her. This devotion also transforms the way she loves. Because she has been loved deeply by God, she knows how to extend grace to others. She can forgive without bitterness. She can encourage without envy, and she can love without fear. Her relationship with God has healed her wounds and reshaped her perspective, so she does not project pain onto others. Instead, she pours out love that flows from her healed heart. This kind of love is the strongest foundation for marriage because it is not based on moods or emotions. It is anchored in the eternal love of Christ. A woman who places God first is also one who brings order into every area of her life. She understands priorities, she knows the value of discipline, and she lives with integrity even when no one is watching. She does not wait for a husband to lead her into righteousness. She already walks in righteousness on her own. Her standards are high not because she is arrogant, but because she reveres the God she serves. This makes her a woman who lifts the standard in marriage, raising her home into alignment with the principles of the kingdom. Her commitment to God is not a religious routine. It is a living relationship that transforms her daily. She has experienced His mercy, so she walks in compassion. She has tasted His provision, so she walks in gratitude. She has felt His guidance, so she walks with confidence. Every part of her life is touched by this devotion, and it becomes evident to anyone who encounters her. She is not just a woman waiting for a man. She is a woman walking with God. And that walk prepares her for the role of walking beside a husband in divine purpose. When a woman is marked for kingdom marriage, one of the clearest signs is her clarity of purpose. She is not a wanderer, waiting aimlessly for someone to define her identity or chart the course of her life. She is not living in confusion about who she is, nor is she searching for validation from a relationship to give her worth. Instead, she is already moving in alignment with the purpose God has placed within her. This does not mean she has every detail figured out, but it does mean she carries an inner conviction that her life is meant for something greater than just existing. That sense of assignment becomes a guiding light that keeps her from being distracted, and it positions her to complement a man whose purpose is also from God. This woman understands that marriage is not the beginning of her significance. She knows that she was valuable before she ever meets her husband because God placed inside of her the seeds of destiny. She does not sit passively waiting for direction, because she knows that her calling is not dependent on another person. Instead, she is already cultivating the gifts, talents, and vision entrusted to her by God. She may be excelling in her career. She may be nurturing influence in her community, or she may be serving faithfully in her ministry. Whatever the platform, she is using it with the mindset that she was born to bring impact. By the time a man enters her life, she is not an empty vessel waiting to be filled. She is a garden already bearing fruit. Purpose gives her focus, and that focus shields her from settling for less than what God intended. When you are clear about your calling, you cannot afford to waste your life in situations that drain you or pull you away from destiny. This kind of woman will not entertain relationships that compromise her vision. She knows her assignment too well to tie herself to someone who has no direction. That clarity becomes a form of protection, not because she is arrogant, but because she refuses to let temporary emotions sabotage eternal purpose. She carries within her a divine awareness that her life is connected to something bigger, and that awareness keeps her walking on the narrow path even when others are swayed by distractions. This clarity of purpose also makes her attractive in a different way. While others may seek beauty, charm, or superficial qualities, a man marked for kingdom purpose is drawn to her direction. He recognizes that she is not just living day by day, she is moving with intention. Her vision stirs his vision, and her passion ignites his passion. A woman with clarity is not only a companion but also a catalyst. She brings momentum, she adds structure, and she multiplies potential. Because she already knows who she is. She does not compete with her husband's calling, she completes it. She does not get lost in his shadow, nor does she try to overshadow him. She aligns, complements, and amplifies what God has placed in both of them. This woman also carries the discipline that purpose demands. Purpose is not maintained by wishful thinking. It requires consistency, sacrifice, and self-control. A woman marked for kingdom marriage has already trained herself to live by principles and not by feelings. She knows how to wake up and pursue her assignments even when she doesn't feel motivated. She knows how to steward her time, her energy, and her resources with wisdom. That discipline becomes an asset in marriage, because purpose requires a household that can stand in order. Her clarity of purpose has taught her responsibility, and responsibility is what sustains partnership. Her clarity also gives her peace. Many live in anxiety because they do not know who they are or where they are going, but this woman has settled those questions with God. She may not know the full picture, but she knows the direction. That assurance keeps her from comparing herself to others or competing with other women. She is not jealous of someone else's success because she knows her lane. She celebrates others while staying faithful to her assignment, and that confidence in her purpose allows her to walk with dignity. When a woman lives with clarity of purpose, her presence becomes purposeful as well. She does not speak aimlessly. Her words carry weight. She does not engage in meaningless pursuits. Her actions are intentional. Everything about her life begins to line up with the destiny God has spoken over her. She becomes a woman who adds value to every environment she enters. People notice that when she speaks, things shift, and when she acts, things progress. That is the power of clarity. Life is no longer random, it is directed by the hand of God. This is why she is marked for kingdom marriage, because marriage in the kingdom is not about two people trying to figure themselves out together. It is about two people already walking in purpose, coming together to advance the plan of God. Her clarity ensures that she does not become a weight but a wing. She lifts, she propels, she accelerates, because she is already aligned with what God designed her to be. She does not need to be convinced of her worth, because her purpose already testifies of it. She does not wait for marriage to validate her. She brings validation to the marriage by being a woman who is already rooted in God's assignment. A woman marked for kingdom marriage carries within her a spirit of discernment that sets her apart in ways that cannot be imitated. Discernment is more than intuition, more than a feeling, and more than common sense. It is the ability to see beyond the surface, to hear beyond the noise, and to sense the truth of a matter before it is revealed. For a woman chosen by God for kingdom partnership, discernment becomes one of her greatest assets. It protects her from deception, it guides her steps, and it enables her to align her life with God's timing and God's people. She does not walk blindly, and she does not live carelessly. Her heart has been trained in the presence of God, and her ears have been sharpened by listening to His voice. This kind of woman has learned that not every opportunity is a divine one, and not every open door leads to destiny. She understands that the enemy also presents counterfeits, distractions, and substitutes that look good on the surface but are deadly underneath. Because she is rooted in discernment, she does not allow her emotions to dictate her decisions. She does not let loneliness lead her into the arms of the wrong man, nor does she let impatience push her into a relationship that is not aligned with God's plan. Instead, she leans into the wisdom of the Spirit, waiting until she knows the difference between what is a blessing and what is a trap. Her discernment is evident in the way she handles relationships. She does not entertain every voice that calls her beautiful, because she knows that flattery is cheap and words are empty without fruit. She looks beyond charm, beyond appearance, and beyond temporary gestures. She listens for the sound of purpose, for the presence of integrity, and for the consistency of character. Her spirit quickly picks up on deception, and her heart is not easily swayed by counterfeit affection. This is not because she is suspicious, but because her relationship with God has sharpened her awareness. She has seen enough to know that not all that glitters is gold, and not every hand extended is meant to lift her higher. Discernment also gives her patience. She does not rush ahead of God, and she does not panic when things do not happen in her timing. She trusts that God reveals all things in their season, and she is willing to wait until clarity comes. While others may jump into commitments out of fear of missing out, she rests in the assurance that she cannot miss what God has marked for her. This peace keeps her from desperation, and desperation is one of the greatest enemies of destiny. Her discernment allows her to recognize when something is premature, when someone is not ready, or when a situation needs more time before she steps into it fully. Another expression of her discernment is in how she builds her environment. She knows that the company she keeps influences the clarity of her spirit, so she is intentional about who she allows close to her. She does not expose herself to gossip, negativity, or destructive influences. Instead, she surrounds herself with voices that sharpen her, challenge her, and remind her of her calling. Her discernment tells her that destiny cannot be fulfilled in toxic soil, and so she uproots whatever tries to contaminate the purity of her spirit. This is why when she enters into marriage, she brings with her not just wisdom for herself, but wisdom that blesses her home. Her discernment is also a shield for the man she will walk with. Many times she will see what he does not see, sense what he overlooks, and perceive what he has not yet considered. Her spiritual sensitivity becomes a covering for him, not in a controlling way, but in a supportive way. She prays when she senses danger. She encourages when she perceives weariness. And she speaks when she knows silence would allow confusion to grow. Her gift of discernment does not make her superior, it makes her valuable. It allows her to stand as a true helper, guiding her family with unseen wisdom that comes from God. This spirit of discernment does not come overnight. It is cultivated through years of walking closely with God, through mistakes that taught her to listen more carefully, and through experiences that showed her the difference between His will and her own desires. She has trained her ear to recognize His voice above the noise of the world, and because of that, her decisions carry weight and accuracy. She is not perfect, but she is attentive. She does not always know everything, but she knows when to pause, when to pray, and when to wait. That posture makes her trustworthy, because her life is governed not by impulse, but by divine leading. A woman marked for kingdom marriage with discernment is not ordinary, because in a world full of distractions, she remains clear. In a world full of counterfeits, she can spot the genuine. In a culture that celebrates rushing and chasing, she has learned the art of waiting and listening. Her discernment is not just for her benefit, but for the generations that will come after her, because it sets the tone for the household she will establish. Through this gift, she aligns her life with the man God has chosen, and together they walk in unity, shielded from traps that could destroy their calling. A woman marked for kingdom marriage carries a strength that is unlike what the world often portrays, because her strength is not loud, demanding, or boastful. It is wrapped in humility. She is not the kind of woman who needs to prove herself in every conversation or fight for recognition in every room. Her confidence is silent but steady, and her presence speaks louder than any word she could say. This strength is born out of her relationship with God, and it is refined through the trials she has endured. She has walked through seasons where she could have chosen bitterness, but instead she chose to bend her will to God's. She has faced circumstances that could have hardened her, but instead they humbled her into a deeper reliance on Him. That is why she stands with unshakable grace, carrying the rare balance of power and gentleness. Her humility is not weakness, but rather the sign of a heart that has been shaped by surrender. She understands that pride is the enemy of destiny and that arrogance destroys relationships. Because of this, she has learned how to honor others without diminishing herself. She can celebrate the success of others without jealousy, and she can acknowledge the gifts of those around her without insecurity. Her strength allows her to stand tall, but her humility teaches her how to bow low. This combination makes her the kind of woman who can thrive in partnership, because she does not need to dominate, nor does she need to disappear. She has mastered the art of balance, and that balance makes her a stabilizing force in any environment. This strength wrapped in humility also equips her to handle submission in its true form. She knows submission is not silence, nor is it weakness, it is the power of order and divine alignment. Because she is strong, she can yield without resentment. Because she is humble, she can support without feeling diminished. She understands that in a kingdom marriage, submission is not one-sided but mutual, both husband and wife honoring God by honoring one another. Her strength ensures she does not lose her voice, but her humility ensures she does not misuse it. She speaks with wisdom, she listens with patience, and she acts with discernment, creating an atmosphere of trust and respect in her future home. The beauty of her humility is also seen in how she carries herself in moments of conflict. She does not fight to be right just for the sake of winning. Instead, she fights for peace, understanding, and unity. Her strength allows her to hold her ground when truth is at stake, but her humility allows her to lay down pride when it is only ego at risk. She knows when to speak and when to remain silent, when to lead and when to step back, when to confront and when to cover. This wisdom does not come from worldly tactics, but from a spirit that has been disciplined in the presence of God. A woman like this does not seek to impress people with external display. She knows her true power is not in how loudly she can command attention, but in the quiet dignity that comes from walking in grace. Her humility attracts favor because it reveals a teachable spirit. She is willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to admit when she is wrong. Her strength ensures she does not crumble when corrected, and her humility ensures she does not resist when guided. This combination keeps her in constant growth, and that growth positions her for the ever-evolving demands of marriage and destiny. Her strength, wrapped in humility, also reflects in how she supports vision. She is not intimidated by a man's greatness, nor does she compete with his calling. Instead, she strengthens him with her encouragement and anchors him with her presence. Her humility allows her to rejoice in his victories without needing to overshadow them, and her strength allows her to stand firm when his weaknesses show. She does not shrink back when challenges arise. She carries burdens with courage. She is not threatened by leadership because she knows her value is not diminished by following. She is not afraid of responsibility because she knows her strength is enough to carry what God places on her shoulders. In her daily life, this balance makes her trustworthy. People around her can depend on her because she is steady, not swayed by pride or fear. She treats those above her with honor and those beneath her with kindness. Her humility gives her compassion for those who struggle, and her strength gives her the courage to stand for justice. She has the ability to walk in rooms of influence without arrogance, and the ability to remain in hidden places without insecurity. Whether she is seen or unseen, celebrated or ignored, she remains the same. That consistency is the mark of someone prepared for kingdom partnership. This kind of woman becomes a crown to her husband not because she is flawless, but because she knows how to hold power with grace. She can influence without controlling, lead without demanding, and shine without overshadowing. She embodies the quiet force of strength, coupled with the gentle spirit of humility, and that rare combination is what sets her apart as one marked for a marriage that serves the purposes of God. A woman marked for kingdom marriage carries within her the remarkable ability to nurture vision. She is not simply a passive admirer of dreams or a spectator to ambitions. She engages, invests, and activates the potential she sees in her future husband and in those around her. Her heart has been trained to recognize that kingdom assignments are greater than individual desires, and that the calling on a man's life is not separate from the woman God has chosen to walk beside him. When she encounters a man pursuing purpose, she does not threaten it, ignore it, or minimize it. Instead, she becomes an amplifier, a catalyst, and a support system who breathes life into the vision that God has placed in his heart. This is a rare and powerful gift because it requires both insight and restraint. She must see what others cannot, yet allow the vision to grow according to God's timing, not her own impatience. Her ability to nurture vision begins with understanding the importance of alignment. She knows that purpose is not just about personal fulfillment. It is about advancing the plan of God. She listens attentively, observes carefully, and prays earnestly for discernment regarding the directions she should encourage and the opportunities she should help cultivate. She does not impose her opinions on the calling of a man, but encourages clarity, providing wisdom and counsel that complements his purpose. She understands that kingdom marriages are not built on convenience or emotional comfort, but on partnership in destiny. That understanding allows her to contribute without overshadowing and to give without losing herself. This nurturing is seen in her words. She speaks encouragement that strengthens confidence and renews commitment to the vision. She recognizes potential even when circumstances appear discouraging and offers perspective that inspires perseverance. Her voice does not whisper fear or doubt, it communicates faith, hope, and possibility. She knows that words have power, and in kingdom marriage, her words become instruments to ignite motivation and awaken faith. She corrects with love, instructs with patience, and celebrates with sincerity. She understands the delicate balance of honesty and encouragement, ensuring that her influence uplifts rather than discourages. Her actions reflect her vision, nurturing spirit as well. She is willing to work behind the scenes, to make sacrifices, and to invest her time, resources, and energy into supporting the mission that God has entrusted to both of them. She does not wait for recognition or reward. Her motivation is anchored in obedience to God and in a deep understanding of the power of unity and purpose. She provides stability when challenges arise, clarity when confusion threatens, and reassurance when doubts surface. Her contribution is tangible, consistent, and transformative. The home she will establish becomes a center of influence, a safe place for dreams to grow, and a hub where potential is cultivated and multiplied. Her spiritual insight allows her to discern which opportunities and directions will serve the kingdom purpose and which may distract from it. She is able to identify the strategies and steps necessary to bring vision to fruition without forcing or manipulating outcomes. Her wisdom is cultivated through prayer, study, and a close walk with God, giving her the ability to distinguish between what is aligned with divine timing and what is premature. She knows that rushing the vision can lead to failure, but patient nurturing ensures that the dream will flourish in its season. This ability to steward time, energy, and opportunity makes her a partner who carries the weight of destiny lightly but effectively. She also carries the emotional intelligence necessary to encourage a man without creating dependency. She understands that her role is not to complete the man's purpose, but to complement it. She strengthens him, inspires him, and challenges him when needed. Yet she does not take over what God has placed in him. Her presence becomes a source of motivation rather than competition, a refuge rather than a distraction, and a spark rather than a threat. This balance is essential in kingdom marriages because it allows both partners to grow individually and collectively, creating an environment where potential is fully realized. Her nurturing extends beyond her husband's vision to the broader context of influence. She encourages those around her to pursue their calling. She lifts communities through service, and she participates in initiatives that align with God's plan. She understands that kingdom influence is not contained in one person. It multiplies when vision is cultivated in partnership. Her ability to inspire others creates a ripple effect, turning her home and sphere of influence into a launching pad for purpose. The energy she brings does not drain but replenishes because it is rooted in faith and commitment to God's mission. This woman's nurturing of vision is not accidental or incidental. It is intentional and disciplined. She has spent years cultivating insight, wisdom, and discernment. She prays, studies, and positions herself in environments that strengthen her capacity to support purpose. She understands the power of preparation and the necessity of timing, knowing that her encouragement will have maximum impact when combined with patience, wisdom, and alignment with God's plan. Her life is a living testimony of partnership and purpose, and her presence ensures that vision is not left to struggle alone, but is guided, strengthened, and propelled toward fulfillment. A woman marked for kingdom marriage demonstrates a remarkable ability to endure seasons of waiting, and it is this endurance that distinguishes her from those who are impatient or easily swayed. She understands that God's timing is perfect, and she has learned to trust His process even when it conflicts with her own desires. Waiting is not a period of idleness for her. It is a season of preparation, refinement, and growth. She has discovered that God's delays are not denials, and His timing is never accidental. While the world may celebrate instant gratification and speed, she has embraced patience as a spiritual discipline, knowing that the right person, the right circumstances, and the right moment all align under the hand of God. Her endurance is rooted in faith. She does not allow uncertainty to shake her confidence, nor does she allow loneliness to dictate her choices. She knows that every waiting season is an opportunity for her character to be perfected and her heart to be aligned with God's purpose. She spends her time building herself spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually, understanding that a kingdom marriage requires two whole, prepared individuals. She uses her waiting to pray, to cultivate wisdom, to refine her character, and to deepen her intimacy with God. She is not passive in her patience. She is actively preparing to enter into a partnership that will serve the purposes of God on a higher level. This patience also shapes her perspective on relationships. She does not chase after fleeting affections, nor does she settle for connections that do not honor her calling. She recognizes that impulsive decisions often lead to regret, and she refuses to compromise her destiny for temporary comfort. Her endurance allows her to evaluate potential partners carefully, to discern character, and to measure compatibility not just in personality, but in purpose. She knows that kingdom marriage is not about fleeting feelings or temporary attraction. It is about divine alignment, mutual growth, and the fulfillment of God's plan. Waiting has trained her to recognize the difference between convenience and covenant. Her endurance is also demonstrated in how she handles societal pressures. She does not succumb to cultural expectations that demand immediate marriage or constant validation through relationships. She has learned to rise above comparisons and to focus on her own journey. While others may measure success by marital status, she measures success by her obedience to God and the fulfillment of her calling. She understands that God's approval is more valuable than human approval, and that His timing will always be best. This discernment allows her to maintain peace in seasons that might otherwise breed frustration or fear. During this waiting period, she develops resilience. She faces disappointments, encounters rejection, and experiences seasons of uncertainty, yet she emerges stronger each time. Her faith in God does not waver, and her commitment to His plan deepens. She understands that waiting is not punishment, but preparation. It is in these seasons that she learns how to support a future husband, how to navigate challenges with grace, and how to maintain focus on eternal priorities rather than temporary distractions. Endurance in waiting becomes a crucible through which her character is strengthened and her influence expanded. Her patience and endurance also shape her relationships with others. She does not demand immediate gratification or rush to judgment. She extends grace to friends, colleagues, and family members, understanding that everyone is at a different stage in their own journey. Her calmness, composure, and wisdom attract respect and trust, creating a network of influence that strengthens her and positions her for kingdom impact. People recognize in her maturity that comes from disciplined waiting, and they are drawn to her stability and reliability. This capacity to endure without complaint becomes a reflection of God's faithfulness in her own life. A woman marked for kingdom marriage does not allow waiting to breed doubt or bitterness. She refuses to become discouraged when circumstances seem delayed or when the path is unclear. Instead, she embraces the process, knowing that God is orchestrating every detail. She uses this time to build her skills, to deepen her spiritual intimacy, and to grow in wisdom and understanding. She remains active in her calling, ensuring that when her time comes, she steps into her future fully prepared. Waiting for her is not stagnation. It is strategic preparation for a destiny that cannot be rushed. Her endurance also teaches her humility and reliance on God. She understands that she cannot force timing or control outcomes, and she embraces the discipline of surrender. This teaches her to trust God completely, to pray persistently, and to maintain a heart that is flexible and responsive to divine instruction. Endurance refines her character, aligns her priorities, and ensures that when her kingdom partner appears, she is ready to support and complement him fully, bringing not only love but wisdom, patience, and spiritual insight into the marriage. As we draw this message to its close, understand that a woman marked for kingdom marriage is not simply a participant in a relationship. She is a vessel of purpose, a partner of destiny, and a carrier of God's vision. Every sign we have spoken of, from her commitment to God, her clarity of purpose, her discernment, her strength wrapped in humility, her ability to nurture vision, her endurance in waiting, to her reflection of Christ's love, points to a life that has been deliberately prepared for greatness. She is not ordinary, and the marriage she enters into is not ordinary. It is a sacred union ordained by God to accomplish what cannot be done alone. A kingdom marriage is never about convenience, comfort, or personal gratification. It is about alignment, completion, and multiplication of potential. When a woman and a man walk together under God's design, their union becomes a force that advances destiny, influences generations, and brings heaven's principles to the earth. The woman who carries these marks is already equipped to complement, strengthen, and elevate her husband while simultaneously walking fully in her own calling. She is a blessing, a crown, and a partner in every sense that matters. Understand that the preparation of a woman for kingdom marriage is not accidental. Every season, every challenge, every trial she endures is refining her for a divine assignment. God is intentional, and He does not waste experiences. She is being shaped not only for her own fulfillment, but for the fulfillment of the calling her future husband carries. Together, they will form a partnership that is unshakable, powerful, and eternal in its impact. So, if you are a woman listening to this message, know that the signs within you are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They are divine indicators that God has set you apart for a purpose that is far greater than you can imagine. Walk faithfully, remain patient, nurture your vision, and allow God to perfect you in every area. Your time is coming, your union is ordained, and your destiny is inevitable. Be ready, because the kingdom marriage you are destined for is not just a union of two people. It is a convergence of destiny, a partnership that will shift atmospheres, change lives, and bring glory to God. Your life has been marked, prepared, and positioned. All that remains is for you to step fully into it with faith, confidence, and obedience. The kingdom awaits the fullness of what God has placed in you, and when the right man, aligned in purpose and calling, enters your life, you will recognize the unmistakable hand of God at work. This is the power, the purpose, and the promise of a woman marked for kingdom marriage.